Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. On today's episode of me talking about 7 things, I'm going to be going over triple threats, but before I continue, please check out the links in the description below. It is day 16 and Waz and Teal talk about the rain from the last few days and how the water level has risen and they need to rethink their hunting and fishing strategies. They later practice with the bow and arrows, and Teal talks about her hunting experience and how she's used a bow and arrow a lot, but not for, game on Naked and Afraid. And she does really well at target practice, and Waz says that she is a better hunter and thinks that she is the best chance they have of getting something to eat. Stephen Lee Hall Jr. and Frank check on Alexa since she is feeling overwhelmed because of all the rain and the cold. Stephen gathers firewood and Frank goes hunting for catfish. After a few shots, he manages to get one and he gets a nice meal for him and his team. That night it is really windy and a log blows off the fire, but everyone is fine. Wes and Stephen Kelly are continuing to snack on their meat and mention their shelter smells of meat from several feet away. They find out that some of the meat went bad in the leg, and they think that maybe whatever caused the animal to be injured or ill when they found it was because of something that happened to the leg, and they place the rotten meat about 75 yards away from camp, and they're not too worried about the distance it is away from their camp, but later they hear and then see a lion near their camp. They bang on metal in their camps to try to scare it away, and the lion eventually leaves, and the two decide to make an alarm system with wires, rocks, and cans. Joe has an elephant visitor near his shelter. His energy levels are getting low after not being able to hunt due to the blind needing to be cleared out, and also because of the rain. He wants to build a ladder to help him escape the elephant, just in case it decides to attack. And he finds a telephone pole and wants to use that to help him make a ladder because there's a tree near his shelter that he could potentially climb up if need be. And he's showing a lot of ingenuity trying to get the ladder together made of man-made materials, but after a while he's unable to get some of the wiring off the telephone pole, and so he gives up on the idea. That night the wind is shaking his shelter and he may not get a lot of sleep, or at least he says he might not get a lot of sleep. And then the wind blows some of his sheet metal door open and he is able to close it, but the wind is causing his shelter to rattle a lot. Day 17, Stephen Kelly uses some of the rotten meat to fish, and Wes works on a fish trap made of a wood pallet and uses some of the bad meat to bait it. He then sets it in the water, and then Wes sees a snake skin in their shelter, and they are worried that there may be a black mamba near their shelter. The two collect some firewood and settle into their shelter, and Stephen mentions needing to be more aware. Stephen then spots a black mamba slithering near Wes's head and kind of goes into their shelter, but later slithers away. And then they decide to ash the area to keep the black mamba away because the ash will be very heated and will probably irritate the snake and cause it to go away. That night, they are both worried about the black mamba or the lion returning. Joe is looking for a way to make an alarm system using wire, nails, and shell casings. He gets that done and is not feeling great afterwards because he's been using a lot of energy and he hasn't really been eating. He goes to take a rest and he wants to prioritize food to get some energy since he's only halfway through and doesn't want to be exhausted because he has a lot more to go and he still needs to get to their quote-unquote extraction / escape. And then he decides to make a fishing line and a reel from material he got from the telephone pole, and he uses a sickle bush thorn to make a hook. He mentions that he starved his way through his first challenge and is determined to get some food. Stephen Lee Hall Jr., Frank, and Alexa are happy the sun is back. They go visit their water source and try to get catfish and also look for ways to get a roof for their shelter. They find some potential roof material. Alexa is worried about the canopy holding the weight. They try to put a steel door up on top of the canopy, but because of the rain and the fact the poles weren't super in the dirt, it kind of shifts and eventually falls over, but everyone is okay, thankfully. And so they decide they want to build another canopy and put a bunch of branches on it for shade cover, and Frank goes to make some snares. And so while Steven and Alexa are finishing up on the canopy and putting the bushes on top for the roof, Frank makes some African bird snare / spring pole snare traps. Waz is gathering firewood and Teal is in the blind ready to hunt. Some animals appear near the blind and Waz is giving some nice commentary about it. Teal lines up a shot, but right as she's about to take it, the animal sees her and they bolt, and she unfortunately misses. Joe is feeling weak and is worried about his lack of energy. He uses a scorpion as bait for his fishing line, and he sets a passive line and hopes for a meal. He also spots a lot of frogs that are unfortunately poisonous, but he can use them as bait, and he uses as one to bait the fish trap that Amber made, and he is getting really lightheaded while walking back to camp. Later, he goes to check the fishing line and trap, and there's no fish on the fishing line, but fortunately, there is a terrapin in his fish trap, and he is able to get a nice meal out of it. And he also notes that on his fishing line, the scorpion was taken, so he knows that scorpion can be effective bait. Wes had a rough night thinking about the black mamba, and Steven is worried about his mental state. Frank checks his traps, and unfortunately there is no bird, and he goes exploring for more food. He finds a scorpion hole and manages to get one, and he tells his team about it, and they're able to get about 9 scorpion and have a nice protein-filled meal from it. Waz gets some more firewood and spots a diker. He tells Teal about it, and she goes hunting for it. She spots it, and it seems disoriented, and she takes the shot, and she successfully dispatches it, and she is emotionally drained by the situation. And Waz gives her a pep talk, and they make a plan for processing it to make sure none of it goes to waste. And so they do that, and they cook some of it to eat it to get some energy, and they preserve the rest. That night, the wind kicks up, and they hang up their meat in their boma. And later that night, they hear metal clanging together, and it seems like something is trying to get at their shelter so they can get at the meat, but it's not super clear because Teal is talking about there's a lot of noises, and she hears some clanking around, and we see a lion kind of sniffing a camera, but I don't know if, and the episode ends. So, good episode. I wanted to point out that the diker was not a young diker, that was a full-grown diker and seemed aged, and it seemed the animal wasn't really able to see very well, but Teal was able to get the shot off, and she was emotionally drained, and they were able to get some food. No, I do not think the diker was planted. It just happened to wander into their camp, and they were able to get it, and it was an older individual, so hence why it seemed a little disoriented. And no, I don't think they are planting any food for the survivalists. And so, as of day 18, Stephen Lee Hall Jr. has 290 days, only 10 days away from getting 300. And as of right now, he has the most days survived of any survivalist in Naked and Afraid history. Waz has 158 days, Wes has 114, Frank has 53, and Alexa, Joe, Stephen, Kelly, and Teal all have 39 days, and Joe has 30 days by himself, which means that if he goes 10 more days on his own, he will have the record for most days survived alone. So if by day 28, Stephen Lee Hall Jr. and Joe are still there, they're going to be setting records because Stephen Lee Hall Jr. will be the first survivalist to 300 days, and Joe will have the most number of days alone on a challenge. I also wanted to point out on one of the official Naked and Afraid social media pages that they released a video where Kel said she tapped on day 11 and Miranda med tapped on day 6, but during the episode it looked like Miranda was med tapped on day 5 and Kel self tapped on day 8. So on the tap list and number of days that I have, I changed it, but it was interesting to see the difference between the edit and what the survivalist said. But I'm taking what the survivalist said on the videos as fact, so I changed the dates, and Miranda has 27 total days on challenges and Kel has 32. And so episode 6, Hexgate be darned. Wes and Steven brave croc-filled waters to try to corral some fish to get their first fish meal of the challenge. Teal and Waz use a mosquito net to catch 6 terrapins, and a heat wave has both Frank and Joe on the brink as medics assess if they can continue. Hopefully no one is tapped. It doesn't seem as though anyone's tapped because usually in the summaries they say if someone is tapped, so I really hope Frank and Joe are okay. This was a good episode, and I'm interested to see what happens next. Thank you all so much for listening. Please like, comment nice things, and subscribe, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye!